Hey everyone, in our previous video we added a map in our React Native application. Today we're going to use the text field that we used there to search for places. Let's take a look. So in recap, this is what we did last time. And we used this text field to display the coordinates whenever we move the map, remember? Now we're going to enter text in this field, and using the search APIs in this handler, we're going to look for POIs around this area.
At the end, it will look like this. We enter something in our search field and we get suggestions. And when we click those suggestions, the map will move to that location. And that's it. Now, if I remember correctly, in our original source code, we have a template, a map template, and that JavaScript has a key, and this key is visible. We are going to create now a developer key variable, and we're going to add this key in a file. Now we're going to save this file with the name .env, like environment. This file will also be visible in the repository, so we have to make sure that it is in our git ignore. Now, in order to use this key as a proper environment, we have to load a library. Install is babel plugin inline.env. nvn install babel plugin .env. Now we install also the Metro React Native Babel preset. Save dev. Now we have to modify our JavaScript configuration Babel in order to use this one, this new library we just loaded. We have to add inline.env. Now we have the capability to actually read from this file .env, and we can insert it as a part of the parsing process TomTom Developer Key. Now we can execute again expo, and you can see that everything is exactly the same because we haven't changed anything.
We are going to create now the custom UI element for the search, maybe with autocomplete. Coming from the Search API, we usually get 10 default results, and we are going to add these suggestions to the application. First, we're going to add a suggestion JavaScript file. We have it as suggestions, JavaScript file. Let's add some style sheet. Let's see the function for the suggestion first. The value of this variable, the suggestion, is the result that we're looking for.
What happens when we click on a suggestion? When we click on it, we'll have to start looking for activating the API. So press item. Now we have suggestions. So obviously item, the event. So from here, let's search input ref. Let's hide it, and from the props, press item.
So when we select a suggestion, we need to make this whole component invisible. Off screen, I work on the view component that we are going to add. And when we are typing, we are going to execute this handle search, which is really doing a fuzzy search query. And we're going to populate the results in this list. If we click on the suggestion, then we execute this to make the list disappear. And in theory, it should take us to the location that we just selected and to see it in the map.
Gonna create some styles.
For the search button, we already have some of that style created. So we can copy them here. Let's create another one. Search input.
Let's say 40.
And let's add some properties.
Padding left, 10 characters, padding right, border, width.
Now suggestions, list container. This one should use almost all the screen width. Yeah. Which one is missing? Of course, we need the search list.
Go here. Okay,
set size, I think almost the whole width. And now we're going to implement the search using the Fuzzy Search API.
Okay, at this point, we already have a React Native component that will allow the users to type a location and display the results. Now we need just to hook everything up to implement the code and get the user input and look for suggestions using the fuzzy search. And for that, we can use Axios, which is a promise-based HTTP client. It will execute our requests, handle our responses, transform responses, etc. Okay, let's see. Let's install Axios. Stop this server for a moment. Okay, install Axios, npm install Axios. When it's done, then we can go to our application. Let's do this. And then we have to application import Axios from Axios.
So we already created the UI component for the suggestion, so we just need only to import it here.
Suggestions. That's coming from the file we just added. Now we need to declare our API key. So we already have it in our environment variable. You will remember. So do a const. Let's say API key. It's coming from the process environment TomTom Developer key.
We are going now to declare a placeholder variable that specifies the hint in the text input and a show list, the Boolean value that display or hide the UI component, like toggling the visibility of the list. So we only cover the map when it's necessary. We do this. Let's have a placeholder first. Here, placeholder. We need to say the placeholder.
Search something. How about that? Search for something. The show list. Let's see the show list. The Boolean value. The show list is Boolean. Set show list, and by default is false. And then the suggestion data. That means the results that come from the Search API. We would put it in an array. Suggestions. List data. Set suggestion list data, and then is of course by default an empty array. To execute our JavaScript, I think I'm gonna need this in the future. Bear with me. When we are typing on the input field,
So the idea is that while we are typing inside the text field, we're going to execute a call to the REST API. This is the search fuzzy search API. Now we don't want to do that every time that we type, so we're going to wait until we have at least 3 characters. How about that?
so in order to do that, let's create the function to handle this. Now, change search text. Let's make the initial check, which is if exists. Okay, if we have a change search text, the changed search text length is less than 5, then we do nothing. Otherwise, we can make our code using Axios. We have a URL. I think we have to pass the content of the changed text. And now the search URL, that means the query parameters, will be the base URL plus, now we have to add, or start the query parameters list, key, which is our API key. Now we can call Axios get search URL, and then response. I know that we usually get an array of addresses in the response inside the results. Let's go and check the developer portal documentation to see exactly what we get. So data, results, and we can map it in an array.
That's addresses, plural, because it's an array, it's a list. And from the response, data, results, we're going to map. So function v. We're going to split this thing. Let's get a freeform address. Let the parts of the result equal v, give me the address, and I know that there is a freeform address. I'm going to split that string, separated by comma, if they have. So this function, which is the we're mapping, will return part 1. Say parts. If we have any parts, yeah, then you return the whole thing. Otherwise, nothing. Part 2 for the lines will be part if the length is 1, then return the first part, otherwise nothing. And the third part, usually, okay, the parts at the result, for example, is the city, or address, a name, or postal code, etc. The third part, if we have still more parts in the result, then return that one, otherwise nothing. Let's see, the address should be full address in the free form address. And now the coordinates. We have a latitude, which is v, position, lat, and the long is v, position, long. Alright, so now that we have the addresses created here, then we'll set the suggestions list data with the addresses that we just parsed, and they have to say show me the results. I know that this usually works perfectly and flawless, but sometimes we have to check when something happened. Let me see. So if there's an error, and oh, what is this error response, then let's print it. Otherwise, if there is an error, a request also display I would like to see that. Otherwise, and then display error message. Now we have to add the following function. It's to handle the event when the user clicks and click an address.
Now we have to create a function to handle the event when someone clicks on the suggestion, that means on an address. And the first thing it has to do is to move the map. We have to move the map to the location that the Search API came back to us with. Second, we have to disappear the list, make the whole list that we have invisible. And finally, we also have to change the values for the map center.
Well, our application stopped, so let's see if I can export. Restart our application. Yeah, how's it going? Are we still good? Should we reload here? Okay, still running. Okay, let's go back to the code while it's still loading. So let's create that function. Press item. This is when we click one of the suggestions. So obviously we have an item. So the placeholder, which is the text that is in the placed as a hint, let's replace it with the address of the item. Just populated that. We have to set the map center to a location. How did we do it last time? Well, we have the item latitude, right? Close this, comma,
and we have the item longitude. Yeah, so we're passing it with a comma. Set the show list. Now false. We don't want the results showing. We want to see the map now. And now we have to inject the JavaScript to move the map. I think we already have that. We have it here, so we can replicate that. We have inject JavaScript. Copy this, actually. Copy this, but we are not passing a float here of the LND long. Where we are passing is item longitude item. Yeah, so these two values actually is item long, item lat. Oh, well, we are executing something, so it has to be this. And I think I make a mistake here as well. Yeah, this value is text, so you have to replace. Same as this one. Yeah, little details, huh? Also the Mac Center. I missed all that. Now we have to add our suggestions UI into our screen. Should put it on top, probably. Suggestions. First the placeholder. Actually, placeholder. A variable placeholder. Show list. Should be show list. The content of the suggestions, the list, the results. So suggestions list data. The same name, suggestions list data. When we press a suggestion and press item, that's the handler on press item. And when we are typing, every time we type, search text change with a value of the same name, hello, search text change. That will be it. Correct. So we close here.
It seems that we have a syntax error on a JavaScript file. I think it is it's the suggestions file. Maybe there is an extra bracket that is not needed there.
Line 56, I believe. That is correct. This one. Alright, let's see if that fixes it. Okay. 56. Yeah, save. And yes, that was the problem. But I can see the search input, the text field that we created is not correctly aligned. Let's go back to the code in our application. Maybe I added the suggestion UI element inside this view. Maybe we should create another view for now. No style for now. Let's move it there. Okay, we have our suggestions. Save this. Let's go back to Expo. That's very good. Let's try to reload. And I see that the input is not correct. The suggestions list item. It's a new UI. Let's go suggestion item. It's a JavaScript, of course. So as a component, import React from React from React native. Actually, it's more than that. Let's do also the view text. We are going to also use the font awesome library. Awesome React native font awesome. Marker. Same from font awesome. Yeah, we're gonna display icons for the POIs that we get in the result. Okay, let's do the suggestion list item. Spot function suggestion list item. Oops, this, and then return touchability, touchable opacity object, which on press. What we do on press, we have a function that will call on the properties on press item, and we are going to send the item. So that's what we're going to return. Now let's see the view. We have a style. Let's create it. Search list item, and then the first part for the item should be the icon and then the information. So the icon should have a view, which is style, styles. Let's call it search list item icon. What will be the value for this? It will be a font awesome, actually, but it needs the what icon to use. Okay, the icon that we're going to use is the value of font map marker. Oh, there's an error here. It should be here. I'm gonna finish. This is this view. We have to actually display the items, or in this case the item. So it's a view, the data should be some normal view. Yep, it's going to be text, style, and styles, search list item title. I'm going to create this in a moment. The text, and the text that goes in here, let's call it props item. Is the p1 value that we created at the beginning. We also created p2, p3, but for initial purposes, let's see if it actually displays the value here for now. And let's close the view. No. Now we're going to check the styles. The styles should be const styles. It's going to create a style. And then the first one is, let's see the icon, search list item icon. There's the margin left, same 10, more margin right, another 10, and the top, margin top, play square, this one. Okay. Which another one we have? Oh, we need the actually item. Search list item. Go margin the top 5. Bottom another 5. Since we are going to display more data horizontally, let's select the flux detection as in row. I think we need an extra one. Yeah, the title. You can see it. So search list item title. We can make it bold only. Okay. Now we are using this font awesome. We need to install it. So, yeah, we are using two libraries from font awesome. So actually it's not font awesome, it's font awesome. Let me see. Let's see. What happened here? It's terminal. So let's install font awesome. npm install JavaScript. SVG core. Yeah, it's not from awesome, it's for awesome. Yep. The next one would be npm I. It's a save and it's for awesome. The free solid SVG icons. Alright, the next one should be for awesome, the actual font. So React native font awesome. Okay, let's export again. And I think I have to update this issue here because it's not font awesome, it's font awesome, right? Font awesome. And okay, let's save here. Okay, I executed the code, run the code on my simulator, and I moved the map to, I can see this is Dubai, but let me just double click here. And we're going to start typing in our edit field. Let's go to another city. Let's see if we can go to Istanbul. That's very nice. And I think I missed the pull down, fields getting populated in my list for as suggestions. So if I just remove this and click another city, let's say we go to Mexico. You can see all the search for all the cities on Mexico City in, I think, in New York, but it will work in Mexico Beach in Florida. Let's see what's there it is. Well, our search API is working, but what I would like to have is a more biased result. Let's see if I am in let's see, New York City, and yeah, this one. New York City, and I wanted to search for, let's say, calzone, pizzas, or sandwiches, or hamburgers, or restaurants, or a daycare, or I want all the results that being biased to the location that we are right now displaying in the map. So let's make that change in our application. So back in the code, I think I want to add a button beside the suggestions that set the current location as bias. So whenever I do a search afterwards, it will use those values for the search API. Let's see if I can add a view. Not that view. Here's a view. Close it. Right. And after the suggestions text, maybe I should add, this is my button, no, button, title, set bias, for example. And then on press, we're going to do on set bias. We haven't set onset bias, so let's go and check this. Let's put it on beside the other button click. Const set bias. It's a function. What it will do is just take the coordinates that right now are in the map center and set these values as bias. Let's split it like they do have here. Now we have the long lat, and we're going to set the value like a set bias center, and maybe we should pass, let's make it easier. Let's set bias latitude, and then we'll put this lat value, and then let's set bias the longitude. We'll put this value. actually it's LNG. Now we don't have these two. We're going to create a state for those values. Let bias lat, set bias lat, use state. This is a value of 0 for now. Oh, 0 is a float value. And then let bias long, set bias long, actually it's not, they're not numbers, they're. Now the map is loaded. We have the button here to set the bias to whatever the map center right now. And what we want to do is now to execute the search. Let's say the bias query. The bias query is exactly, you write, you have to pass the lat, and then you get the values like bias, and then another parameter says long. We can even do better here, just put the values here. And long equal $$ bias long, and this is executable. Just treat it as executed. So what's next? And then we're going to add the bias query here. So let's see. If I go back to the application, let's find from London. Oh, we have an issue here. Let's try to reload the application. Let's see the application running, and we are in New York, and I say, okay, we're gonna set this location as my bias. And if I look for pizza restaurant, you see that the current bias that we have saved, it originally is the one from the map, which is San Jose in California. We haven't set the current bias of Manhattan. Let's go back. Well, we can actually go to San Jose for now. It's centering on a pizza place. You notice that we have the addresses of and not the names, because we are searching, fuzzy search will search addresses, POIs, intersections, etc. And in our code, let me just double check, we are getting only the address part of it. We can actually, let's see if we can do this. Let's get if there is a name. So I know the names come from not the address, but POI name. So if we have a name, then you should actually get that. I'm going to be a little bit more complicated here. We have a name that is not undefined, for example. Then use the name. Otherwise, let's use the rest. I'm going to reload the application. To this one, obviously the set center is going to San Jose in California. Now let's see if this works. Let's find for. Set the bias to this location, and let's do pizza. Ha! Look at this. We have the names of the restaurants. At the end, you can see how easy it was to integrate the search functionality in our application. I think for next time, we can enter a location and create a route so we can follow it. If you want to know more about the Maps APIs, you know you can find us in our developer portal. And if you want to learn about how to use them, you can always go to our blog. Again, thank you very much for watching, and happy mapping!